Dashiell Hammett's book, The Maltese Falcon, is one of the classics in film noir fiction. There were actually three versions of the film. The 1931 version of The Maltese Falcon starred Ricardo Cortez as Sam Spade, a very different portrayal than what you'll see in the classic film of 1941 with Humphrey Bogart in the same role. This was a pre-code film, which means it has a little different spin on the story even than the book. When it came time to reissue the film in 1937, it turns out that the movie would not meet the current production code standards. And so they created yet a second version of the film, which they called Satan Met a Lady. And it starred Warren Williams, an older, more mature Sam Spade than Humphrey Bogart or even Ricardo Cortez. And starred as the femme fatale in this story, Betty Davis, as a blonde, which is kind of interesting. But the most important thing was this was now built around the production code, and to make it work, they made it into a comedy. And then we come to the 1941 classic version, which was written and directed by John Huston, a young John Huston who had previously been known as a screenwriter for films such as Sergeant York. So we're left with three versions of the film, and the cast that was assembled for this 1941 version was pretty incredible as far as the quality of the acting, the directing, everything worked together to form a timeless classic. But what about the other versions? Are they worth taking a look at? Well, that's what this review is going to be looking at. It's going to be looking at all three films, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on each one of them, and let you know what I think. All I can tell you right now is I have watched this version, and it is absolutely stunning. If you like film noir, you really want to own a copy of the 4K version. So stay tuned. We're coming at you right now. Warner Brothers made three versions of Dashiell Hammett's novel, The Maltese Falcon. The first one was in 1931, and in what is typically called the pre-code era. The stars of this version of the film was Bebe Daniels, who was then known more for musicals such as 42nd Street. In the iconic role of Sam Spade, we have Ricardo Cortez. Interestingly enough, he played another iconic literary character, Perry Mason, in a movie of The Case of the Black Cat, which is kind of interesting. The film was directed by Roy Del Ruth. Del Ruth started as a writer for Mack Sennett comedies and later went on to direct some of those comedies. So with this diverse group of talent came forth the first version of The Maltese Falcon. This version could be considered to be the Reader's Digest version. The two writers of the film, Maud Fulton and Brown Holmes, took a razor blade and scissors to the book and chopped large sequences out of the book, leaving it the bare bones of the story while emphasizing the pre-code aspects of it. Now, if you're expecting to see a very sexy, suggestive movie, you'll be disappointed because, if anything, this would be a PG-13, and only because of a scene, however brief, of Bebe Daniels in a bathtub. So this is the bare bones Maltese Falcon, which is basically about a bunch of lying liars and lies they tell. Nobody in this movie is a hero per se. I mean, you could consider the Cortez character, Sam Spade, to be heroic, but I don't see it that way. Spade and Archer, the detective agency in the book and the movie, seems to be kind of a sleazy, peeping over the transom, getting snapshots. In fact, they're a little bit like Jake Gittes in Chinatown. Maybe not as polished. So they take on a client, played by Miss Daniels, who is lying to them. They lie back to her, and You know the plot. I mean, it's not real. It's all about the black bird, but it still has all the major elements, along with a whole grafted on ending that comes from out of nowhere, except the writer's imaginations. That is a attempt at a spin on what could be considered a happy ending, but I'm not sure if you call Sam Spade going to visit Miss Wonderly in prison at the end a happy ending. But by the way, in the book, Miss Wonderly, and that's her first name that she uses when she approaches Spade and Archer's offices. But the truth is that she has many aliases, and for some reason, and probably for a good one, they just leave them all off, and she stays Miss Wonderly. It's less confusing because you really don't care. It's who the character is and what she's doing. There are people who aren't really heroic. There are people who aren't really that great. The cops are sleazy. They're the kind of cops that would use a rubber hose during an interrogation to beat the crap out of a suspect. Everybody is rough around the edges except for Effie, the secretary at Spade and Archer. She is a sweet young thing you expect to see behind the fragrance counter at the May Company selling perfume to matronly ladies. A sweet young woman. And it's interesting how this character will evolve over the multiple versions of the film. Is it a good movie? I think it's a lot of fun. There's a quaint charm about this film. I think it's the pre-codeness of it. It's like they're having a good time. Bebe Daniels and Ricardo Cortez, they're having a good time making this movie. He smiles a lot. He's a happy guy, even though he's a little rough around the edges, a little seedy, a little sleazy. It's very, very charming. And I really liked the movie. I watched the whole thing with a big smile on my face. I was really surprised about that. And there are parts that are laugh out loud. When Gutman, the guy behind the search for the black bird, shows up, he is laugh out loud funny. And he's a very, very interesting character. It makes me laugh just thinking about this. Now, as far as the movie itself, it's only been available once upon a time as part of a 3-disc set. I think this was like from 2016 or something like that, when Warner Brothers made a 3-disc set. And disc 1 is a transfer of the Maltese Falcon itself. Disc 2 has the original Maltese Falcon that we're talking about right now, and also Satan Met a Lady, which is the second version that we'll talk about shortly. And inside of these slim cases, which used to be real popular once upon a time, are another disc which has extra features. And they're pretty good too. This is out of print. I was able to find a copy on eBay, brand new copy, shrink wrapped on eBay for about $20. They're selling used copies on Amazon for like $25. So I felt it was like this was a pretty good deal. And it actually was a Christmas present from Mary to myself. This film is unrestored. But it looks pretty darn good. I was quite surprised at how good that the original 1931 Maltese Falcon looks on a 65-inch OLED television. It was quite nice. There's no real music in it because this is 31. Talkies have only been in for 3 years at this point, and we were 2 years away from an original score being created, that being the one that was done for King Kong. So there's a little bit of music in the middle and at the beginning and end. There's no soundtrack music per se, which I kind of missed it, but then again, like I said, it's a very pleasant and enjoyable experience. So if you're going to have to dig around and maybe you can find a copy of this, the the way I did. Just look around on eBay because this is the one you want. It's the 3-disc special edition of the Maltese Falcon. This is the only place that I know of that you can find the 3 versions of the film. And it's a DVD, but you know what? It still looked pretty darn good on my television. So what about the second film? We'll talk about that next.